Welcome to the Phoenix Effect podcast with Elle, Kristen, and Dennis. We are three narrative-trained therapists, and we will be interviewing storytellers from all walks of life. We will explore what people do to find belonging, purpose, and success. Listen in as we delve into the depths of the human experience. If you have a story you would like to tell, stay tuned to find out how to become a part of the show. Are you ready for a good story? Here we go. Hey, listeners, Elle here. I wanted to do a short podcast on what is somatics and what does it have to do with our healing. Our recent guest, Janie Lacey, mentioned a key part of her healing came from somatics. And as a narrative somatic practitioner, I love that. It brought to mind my own first encounter with somatics. I was with my supervisor for licensure seeking consult for a case. And he asked me, how do I know that I'm angry? Where do I feel it in my body? No one had ever asked me that before. I took some time to think about it. And soon after, I have this memory of standing in my kitchen, chopping something to make dinner. And I had this sharp pain across my chest. And there it is. That is anger. I don't remember who or what I was mad at, but it was a big moment for me to make a connection between the sensations in my body and my emotions. To break it down, the word soma has a Greek root that means living organism in its wholeness is a soma. So our sensations, our emotions, our internal narratives, our relational stance, how we make contact and how we move in and out of the world with others and with life, our actions, our non-actions. It's basically a study of how trauma lives in our bodies and our stories and is showing up in present day. So when I work with people that want embodied transformation, that is when we take our actions, our way of being, our relating, and we align it with our vision for our life and our values, even when we are under pressure. Under pressure, under stress, we fall back on conditioned tendencies that we learned growing up. They are usually out of our conscious awareness. We know we have transformed when our actions align with our values, even under the same old pressures. And we do this by raising awareness to our conditioned tendencies. And to do this, we have to become very aware of our thoughts, our minds, and our bodies. To become more aware of our bodies, we have to raise awareness to interoception, proprioception, and exteroception. And I'll get into what each of those mean. Interoception is our ability to notice the sensations in our body and know what they mean. Research is showing that all emotions actually start with a bundle of sensations in the body. A part of gaining interoceptive awareness is increasing our ability to recognize sensations with pressure, temperature, and motion. There's always one of these three things happening somewhere in our bodies at all times. When we recognize it and interpret it and know what to do with it, we have gained interoceptive awareness. So that moment in the kitchen when I could connect that sharp pain across my chest with anger, I was having an interoceptive awareness moment. Proprioception is how we understand how our bodies are in relation to the world. I have poor proprioception, so I often bump into things and I have bruises all over my body. It's awesome. If you're very clumsy, could be a problem with proprioception. Exteroception is how we feel in relation to the things around us. So as we increase our connection to the natural world and other people, we often have an increased sense of belonging, which is something we often talk about in our podcast. So that's cool. How this relates to story work is getting back to that point on conditioned tendencies. We often learn to suppress emotions. We learn how to behave like the people in our family or not behave like the people in our family. It's the process of healing and changing what we have learned. We are listening more to sensations, becoming more aware of ourselves, what our body says, what do those sensations mean, and honoring what our body is trying to tell us. We are taught to distrust our bodies, that our bodies are debased, that our bodies are sinful. If you grew up in the Christian culture, our hearts are deceitful above all things. We are not taught that our body is our most trustworthy guide, our messenger, our protector, and our leader. When we are less attuned in to our bodies and we are more tuned in to the frequency of other people, it might sound like this in our head. Does somebody like me? Am I accepted here? And then we don't notice our own body sensations. And we're unable to tell if these people, if these relationships, if this environment is right for us. We don't notice if our bodies jump when someone comes near or if they relax inside. We don't notice those things. When we give ourselves space to notice, we can listen to the communication. Our bodies are always responding to external stimuli and internal stimuli. There is a constant response and communication. There is heat, pressure, tightening, cooling, bracing, butterflies, tingliness. We don't listen to it or see it as valuable, but it is actual information on how we feel and how we actually are in this moment. If you want to do a small check-in to see what your own soma is telling you, focus on your length, your width, and your depth. Do we shrink or push out? Do we stand in dignity? This is length. Can we be open and known and connect? Can we connect from a place of boundaries? This is width. Can I feel that I come from somewhere? History that I can trust? Can I be in this moment and be in it and not rush through it? Can we notice what we are about? What is worth organizing our life around? This is depth. An exercise that I love, I recommend doing the back body exercise. I can link it in the show notes if you would like to do it. The practice will lead you to finding your center, grounding, open yourself to relationships and to feedback, and connecting to your purpose. The more we connect with ourselves in these practices as individuals, we will be more inclined to develop and reach for healthy community. When we are in a loving, healthy community, we're going to know it, and our bodies know it, and our bodies know when we are not. Somatics and embodiment are pushing us into connection, relationship, authenticity, courage, and care. A wonderful example of embodied transformation was our last guest, Janie Lacey. She went from not feeling like she belonged or like she didn't have anything to say. She moved through her own relational issues with her divorce, having boundaries with her extended family, to becoming a national celebrity therapist. And she continues to advocate for women in abusive, toxic relationships. And she did it by connecting to her body, finding her purpose, and continuing to align with her integrity. Your girl here, until very recently, I was ashamed of the pitch of my voice. In fourth grade, I was teased relentlessly for sounding younger than my age. What people don't know is that my first year of life was traumatic. I cried so much, I damaged my voice box. Once it was healed, I don't know if it was a way to alleviate pain, I learned to talk higher. And I'm not really exactly sure what happened there. I do know I hated the feedback that I got. I recall also being frequently reprimanded and corrected for saying uncomfortable truths and asking uncomfortable questions. I was silenced because my parents wanted to protect their egos and train me to be a good, quiet Christian girl. All of this combined, it silenced my voice. And it wasn't until I engaged my own story that this began to change. And here I am on a podcast with the pitch of my voice recorded out there, available for public scrutiny. My anxiety disorder tells me the things that I say. What if somebody says that's too close to what they say and I'm accused of plagiarism? Or my lack of confidence tells me I have nothing unique to offer. I do it anyway. I push past the conditioned tendencies to shrink and silence myself, and I hit record because my values tell me I know what it takes to heal, and I want to get the message out there for people that cannot afford my services here's a free podcast for you. I don't know what will happen with it yet, but I do want to stay open and curious. If this podcast has meant something to you, would you please leave a 5-star review and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to us. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. And that's where we end today. We are so glad you joined us. We want to invite you to get involved in the show. First, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. That way, you don't miss out on a future episode. If you're super curious, you can also find us on YouTube. Second, if you'd like to learn more about joining us and sharing your story, send us an email at phoenixeffectpodcast@gmail.com. That's phoenixeffectpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. This podcast and website represents the opinions of Elizabeth Key, Kristen Boskel-John, and Dennis Roberts, and their guests to the show and website. The content here should not be taken as medical or psychological advice. This content is for informational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. The views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a therapist-client relationship.